We do have an expert on the phone. This is Professor Alex Del Carmen. He's a law enforcement expert. Dr. Del Carmen, I was asking earlier, I'm not sure if you heard my initial question, but we want to find out, I know you're not there at the scene, but if you can tell us what might be going on in situations like this. You're familiar with situations like this. You're well-versed. What's going on in situations like this when it seems like it's taking an awfully long time for this lockdown to go away? A huge police presence, a law enforcement presence, first responder presence. What's going on that's taking so long?
Yeah, good morning to you all. So essentially what happens right now is they apparently have contained the threat, which is the first thing that law enforcement will do when they arrive at the scene, right? The idea is that they want to stop the bleeding, so to speak, in the sense that they want to identify the threat, they want to contain the threat, and treat the victims, right? All of that apparently has already taken place. The second thing that happens now is to identify if there are other individuals involved in the incident, right? If there are other victims, if somebody's trapped in a closet somewhere. And so what they're doing right now is methodically going through the entire building to ensure that people are safe and that those that need to be evacuated from the school grounds are evacuated. In fact, I know for us in the public, we're looking at this saying, gee, it's taking a long time, you know, what's going on with law enforcement. There's just a lot of ground to cover and many details to go through, and law enforcement is doing what they're trained to do, right, to essentially go through every corner, every inch of that school to make sure that everyone is safe and that those that need to be treated are in fact treated.
All right, and you mentioned, I mean, this is a large school, and they're going room by room. They're being very methodical about their search. This is what they've been trained to do, and I know that they go through regular training on things like this, and so they know exactly what they're doing. And in the presence of all of those ambulances that we're seeing there at the scene and the stretchers at the ready, that's just protocol. Is that right?
Exactly. So you got to remember that when that 911 call comes in, as it did this morning, and says, look, we have a shooter on the ground here on our grounds, and this individual has shot at least one person. They don't know what they don't know in terms of the first responders. All they're going to do is they're going to put all their assets on the ground immediately. And so it's not surprising that you have multiple ambulances rolling at the same time. You've got not only Dallas ISD, but the Dallas Police Department and other cities around the area providing support. All hands on deck, right? And so what happens at that point is you don't know if it's one person that's been shot. You don't know if it's multiple individuals. You don't know if it's dozens of individuals. You also get your Trauma 1 hospitals on alert. And so all of that happens within 5-10 minutes. And so when they show up at the scene, they're ready to take on massive casualties or perhaps only one. And so that's what you see here is also, there's also another component to the story, which is there are people that are not going to necessarily be injured physically that may have had a mental breakdown or that may have fallen, for instance, in trying to escape from the danger area. So as a result of that, medical personnel is needed.
So Jay Johnson, our photographer, our photojournalist out there, was telling us that there were multiple departments out there. It wasn't just DISD police, it's also Dallas police and Lancaster police. Is that something that they practice together? You know, if we know that the high school is in their jurisdiction?
Yeah, absolutely. So law enforcement, you know, they work in conjunction with one another. You know, when 911 comes in of this magnitude, given, you know, the past, sadly, few years that we've had incidents like these all across the nation. But what's going to happen is law enforcement is going to respond as a family, right? So they will respond with various other units of support there. I wouldn't be surprised that Dallas Police Department was on the scene very quickly, Lancaster and various other entities, because what they want to do is they want to make sure that the law enforcement that are the first responders at the scene, in this case it would be Dallas ISD, that they have all the support that they need, right, in terms of whether or not the threat is multiple individuals, even to direct traffic in the outskirts of the school, they would need that kind of immediate support. And so, yeah, they often train for this, they're prepared for this, and what we saw today was the training come into play in what appears to be a very effective manner.
All right, and Dr. Del Carmen, this is something that we were talking earlier. Unfortunately, we're seeing with more and more frequency. What kind of advice, I would think that every school in North Texas would have a metal detector by now, but I guess that's simply not the case. And I don't know with certainty whether Wilmer Hutchins does or not, but somehow someone got a firearm into that building. What is it that schools are being told to do? Are the police departments, or do they work with them on how to keep the schools safe, not just with their resource officers, but overall in general, how to keep this thing from happening?
Absolutely, right. So, I mean, there are oftentimes, especially after Uvalde, there's been, a statewide effort to ensure that schools are safe. And I think that, legislators alike with policymakers and also police chiefs across the area, they've been very concerned about this happening again in one of our schools. And so as a result of that, as you know, we had legislation this past year that put at least one police officer per school. Is that enough? Probably not. Are all schools using metal detectors? The answer to that is no. I'm a criminologist, right? So from my perspective, we should do everything that we can to keep these kids safe, even if cosmetically the school may not look inviting per se. I would do whatever it takes, right, to make sure this doesn't happen. But at the same time, I think we're getting to that point, albeit very slowly, in the state of Texas and across the U.S. But at some point, somewhere along the line, we're going to finally figure out the fact that, unfortunately, we're going to have to lock down our schools in a different way and operate in a different environment if we do want to prevent these events from taking place. Not altogether. Prevention can never be 100% effective, but at the very least be effective enough that we don't have to worry about our kids going to school and whether or not they're going to be coming back alive or not.
Yeah, Dr. Del Carmen, our children went to school together, and I know that, thank goodness nothing ever happened when our children were in school together, but as a parent, you just have to feel the terror, just what these parents must be going through right now, and the students.
Absolutely, Karen. And being that our kids went to the same school together, as you noted, there wasn't a day that I said goodbye to my kids that I wasn't worried about it, right? Even though I think the school that they went to did as best as they did to keep their kids safe. But at the same time, that goes into, it's really sad, right, and alarming to some degree that parents today have to worry about that as well. That, when you say goodbye to your child or when you put your child in that school bus or when you drop them off, that you have to worry about whether or not the kid's going to come back alive or suffer from a traumatic experience that they never want to go back to school again. And that's something we just really don't talk about. We talk about the physical aspect of the harm that is inflicted, but there's a huge mental component to these traumas, right, that are created not only on parents but also on the children that actually are exposed to this level of violence circumstantially or directly, and they'll never be the same again, and they're likely not going to be comfortable at any school that they go to from this point forward.
Yeah, it's just awful because, while the situation itself might end in the coming hours, it's going to stretch far, far beyond that. And, it's just a very sad testimonies where we are right now. And Dr. Del Carmen, thank you so much. We appreciate it.